Today I'm going to show you how to solve one-step addition and subtraction equations. Now be very careful when you see one-step equations. Don't think, ooh, one thing and I'm done. As you see from the notes, it takes 4 steps to solve a one-step equation. The one step just tells you there is one operation in the equation. And I'm going to talk about the steps as we go, but I'm not just going to read them to you because it would make more sense to do the step as we read it. And this is very important. The numbers that are on here are pretty, what I call nice, because I want you to focus on learning this process. Later on, you won't be able to look at problems and say, ooh, I can do this math in my head and I already know the answer or the solution, because they're going to have large numbers, they're going to have decimals, fractions, mixed numbers, multi-operations. You'll eventually get to where you have variables on both sides. So while these numbers seem really nice and you're going to think, I've got this, it's the process you need to learn how to do. So let's start. First thing you're going to do is find the side of the equation with the variable and determine the operation. So we're going to look for the side of the equation, side the variable is on, and the operation. Here's the first one. Notice I have it divided into 2. If you're doing this on notebook paper, fold your notebook paper in half so that you make 2 columns. We have a column for solving, and then we have a column for checking and doing your extra work that you can't do mentally. All right. So some teachers have you draw a line straight down from the equal sign. That shows you the left side of the equation and the right side of the equation. Some people call it the river because you can't just jump to the other side of the river because you want to. Whatever works for you, that's fine. But at first, as you first start out, it's good to draw the line. Later on, you won't need it. You can go ahead and put 2 equal signs because I already know you're going to need it. The directions said to find the side of the variable, the side of the equation where the variable is. Well, that would be the left side because here's the middle, here's the left. And what operation is happening? What is happening to t? They're adding 10. Okay, that's where we come to step 2. Step 2 says isolate the variable. That means to get it alone. And the way you're going to isolate it is using the inverse operation. We talked about that term before. An inverse just means the opposite operation. Okay? Here we go. Well, the opposite of adding 10 would be to subtract 10 on both sides because you have to keep it balanced. If you don't do it on both sides, then your balance is off, and then it's not an equation and it won't be correct anymore. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. That has given us 2 vertical math problems. When you're solving equations just like expressions, everything flows straight up and down. Focus on one side at a time. If you need to at first, you can hide that side. Okay? And now you're basically combining like terms like we do with equations. We have a positive 10 and a negative 10, and when you put those 2 together, what do you get? That's right, nothing, so it cancels out. That leaves t all alone, which means isolate from step 2, and you bring it down because that's the only thing left. T plus nothing is t. Now focus on the other side of our equation. On this you can do mentally, which is nice. We're going to combine a 7 and a negative 10. Different signs, you subtract, take sign of the higher absolute value, so the solution should be a negative 3. And if you look, wow, we have our solution. We think it's negative 3. Now what you're going to do is you're going to come over here and we're going to check it. I like checking it to the side. Some teachers have you check below. The reason I like checking to the side is because you have to check it using the original equation, and that's all the way up here. What you're going to do is you're going to replace the t. T we think is -3, so instead of a t, we're going to write -3, and then you copy the rest of the equation just as it is. You can't change the order or the numbers or anything. You just bring it straight over and replace your variable with what you think the solution is. Again, that gives us two sides, and nicely on the check step, one side is already done. You just bring it down. Now we focus on this side. Well, what is a -3 plus 10? That's correct. It is a +7. When you get to the end of the check step, if it's balanced, you are correct. Okay, so do you see we've already gone to solving. We found the solution. That would be right here. Then we checked it by substituting into the original equation. If they're equal, then you're right. If these don't match and balance, that means you've messed up somewhere, and you got to come over here and look and see where it is. Sometimes you mess up in the check step. So I always start here and then work my way over if my numbers aren't balanced here. Since they are balanced, we're going to box our solution, and we are finished. Okay, so all of the equations won't take that long to solve. I did a lot of talking, but it's very important that you look at these bullets. You know, capital letters, all caps, means somebody's yelling at you. You must show all of these steps. So in the solve column, you have your equation and 2 lines. And on the check step, you have 2 lines. If we can't do mental math for this and this, you would actually have some work over here. When your teachers are checking your work, they're going to check for that. If you don't follow this process, it will be marked wrong. We're teaching you the process. This one, the numbers are really nice, and you can use mental math. Please, please, please make sure yours is identical to mine. 3 lines and 2 lines. And everything's in the very same spot. Okay, now let's try the next one. Again, you're going to draw your river, or your line, whatever you want to call it. Put your 2 equal signs, because you're going to need 2 every time you have an addition or a subtraction equation. Focus on the side of your equation that has your variable. You found it. What operation do we see? Minus, so they're subtracting 8. We have to do the opposite, which would be to, I hope you said, add 8. If we add 8 on the left, guess what you're going to have to do? To be balanced, you have to do the very same thing on the other side. Alright, now, we have 2 vertical math problems. We have a -8 combined with a +8. So that gives you a big nothing. They cancel out. You've isolated the y, so bring it down. Okay, we're coming over to the work side because I don't want you doing any work over here, and I know you can do that one in your head too, but I'm going to show you where you would show the work. You would do it over here, 109, and it's a negative, and that's a positive, so we're going to subtract, and we're going to get 101. Now, is it a positive 101 or a negative 101? I hope you said a negative. All right, we are ready to check. So, come back to your original, and you're going to substitute for the variable. So instead of writing y, we're going to write -101. Copy the rest of the original. -8 equals -109. Nothing to do on the right side, so you can just bring it down, or you can bring it down later. It's up to you. We do have some math to do here. So when you combine a -101 and a -8, that's the same sign. So you're going to add and keep the sign. So that would be a 901. Now, is it a negative or a positive? Don't even look over here. Same sign. You're going to add and keep the sign. So it would be a -109. And if you look on the right, they balance, so you know this is your solution, and you are correct. if you don't really do the math and you just write those because you know they're supposed to be there, you will not catch a mistake if you make a careless one. All right, moving on. This one looks a little bit different. We're still going to draw our river and put our equal sign. You still focus on the side of the equation that has your variable. Now this is a positive 172 plus c. So what's the opposite of a positive 172? That would be a, I hope you said it, negative 172. What we do on the left, you have to do on the right. Otherwise it's not balanced. Equations are all about a balance. Hands-on equations should have prepared a lot of you for that. If you haven't done hands-on equations, it's fine. You just have to make sure that you visualize either a seesaw or a scale where you're wanting the two sides to be the same. When you do something on one side and not the other, you go from being balanced to unbalanced. So you have to do the same thing to bring it back to balance. All right. So now we have our two vertical math problems. Over here we have a positive 172 and a negative, so they will cancel. You bring down your C. This side we have a subtraction problem because they're different signs. So we're going to come over here. It's not a basic fact, so you need to write it down. 2 minus 2 is nothing. 16 minus 7 is 9, and 4 minus 1 is 3. Now, is it going to be a positive or a negative 390? Come back and look at your signs. Higher absolute value is positive, so it should be positive. Check your solution. You've got to write the 172 first because it comes first in the original. Plus C, well, we're going to get rid of that variable and replace it with what we think the solution is, equals 562. This side we have no work. This side we do. That's not a basic fact, so we want you to show your work. 172 plus 390. 16, 2 and 3 is 5. So a positive 562 is the answer to that math problem. It's balanced on both sides, so we are right, and we can box our solution. I hope the process is getting a little more clear for you. If you forget, it's at the top of your page. Just go back and read the steps and it'll help you. Okay? Now, for the others, I really think that you should be able to solve number, well, it's really not a number. I think you should solve this one by yourself. Pause the video and come on back. Welcome back. Pause the video. See if all of your steps are correct. Don't just look at the solution, because remember, we're checking to see that you understand the process. Everything should look the same. Identical twins is what I call it in my class. Make sure everything is identical. Otherwise, you will not get credit. Okay? Now, let's take a look at this one. This one is different because our variable, after you draw your river to see the left and the right side, do you see how the variable is not on the left like we normally see it? It's fine. It's like riding a seesaw. It doesn't matter what side you sit on. So now it's on the piece sitting on the right. Okay, no big deal. You follow the same process. So they're adding a 27 to P. The opposite of adding a 27 would be to subtract a 27. Now, the most common error that a lot of people make, they want to line up the signs. That's not right. If we're going to subtract, we don't ever put the minus behind the number. So please don't do that. They're adding a positive, so we're going to add a negative. You can think of it like that as well. And that might help you to remember that this should be a negative 27. Keep it balanced, and what you do on the right, you're going to do to the left. So now let's take a look. We have 27 minus 27, which cancels. You've isolated P, so bring it down. You have to bring it down on the right because that's where it is. If it starts out on the right, you need to bring it straight down on the right. We now have a vertical math problem over here. It's not a basic fact, so you should do 214. Different signs we're going to subtract. 14 minus 7 is 7. And then we've got 10 minus 2 is 8. And 1 minus nothing is 1. And the higher absolute value is positive, so it should be a positive 187. And the other reason you can't just skip and put the P on this side of the river is because 214 minus 27 is not going to equal a variable. That equals a constant, a number. So that's why the number has to come below. All right. Time to check. 214. Do not change the order. Go exactly the way it is. Copy it. Equals 27 plus P. Instead of writing P, we're going to write our solution of 187. Okay, this side has nothing to work on. This is your math problem. So we're going to add 187 to 27. 14. 10 and 1 is 11. 2. This side is 214. The left side is 214. We are correct. Box your answer. All right. So do you see, it doesn't matter, even though we don't really generally like having the variable on the right, it's okay to have it on the right. All right. Now, I'm going to give you one little tip on this one, and then you're going to work it out all by yourself. When you look at this equation, do you notice something that we haven't seen on one of our equations yet? I hope you said that double negative. Okay? You need to rewrite it first. That makes your life so much better. So instead of n minus a negative, we're going to use the additive inverse, and it's the same as additive inverse n plus 22. Now you should be able to solve it. I'm going to let you pause the video. You're going to solve and check this one and the last one, and I'll see you in just a little bit. Welcome back. So once we got it rewritten and did our inverse operation, your variable is still on the right, so make sure your variable is on the right. When you check it, you use your original problem of minus a negative. Then when you're working out the check step, you would do the additive inverse, which would tell you to add those two. And the last one is pretty straightforward. Hopefully you got that right. Notice I do have my extra work on the side, not throughout the problem. That's real important so that you can read what's going on. Hopefully you do see the process for solving one-step equations with addition and subtraction. These steps we're going to use also for multiplication and division. So it's really important that you understand the process. Good luck.